There's only one dealer in Happy Valley that always goes to the mat to get you the best deals. It's Lion Country Kia.
Hi, this is Penn State wrestler Mitchell Messenbrink. Lion Country Kia has been serving Happy Valley for 15 years now. They helped me purchase my new Kia, and they would love to help you too.
Lion Country Kia is waiting for you with 85 vehicles in stock and ready to go. Choose from 13 2025 Kia Sportages and 16 2025 Kia Sorentos with financing as low as 3.49% for 72 months or total savings of over $4,000. And of course, every new Kia comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Let us go to the mat to get you the best deals. Lion Country Kia, 1334 Drybowl Street off Shiloh Road behind Sam's Club, State College. Warranty is a limited powertrain warranty. For details, see dealer or go to kia.com.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
I'm the Modelo Recruiter, and I'm looking for fans with good hands and great speed. The ones who stay focused and never miss a play. They go the distance on game day, even when their team is away. I'm always watching, always looking to reward more full-time fans. Because football isn't really football without you.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years.
There's only one dealer in Happy Valley that always goes to the mat to get you the best deals. It's Lion Country Kia.
Hi, this is Penn State wrestler Mitchell Messenbrink. Lion Country Kia has been serving Happy Valley for 15 years now. They helped me purchase my new Kia, and they would love to help you too.
Lion Country Kia is waiting for you with 85 vehicles in stock and ready to go. Choose from 13 2025 Kia Sportages and 16 2025 Kia Sorentos with financing as low as 3.49% for 72 months or total savings of over $4,000. And of course, every new Kia comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Let us go to the mat to get you the best deals. Lion Country Kia, 1334 Drybowl Street off Shiloh Road behind Sam's Club, State College. Warranty is a limited powertrain warranty. For details, see dealer or go to kia.com.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
I'm the Modelo.
That's right. Get to Quaker Steak and Lube. It's a Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show without a goon or an ironhead and overcoming the technical internet-related challenges that inevitably crop up when you're flying solo like I am today. Chris Bucanani from the obligatory PSU pregame show doing my thing, filling in for these guys. Goon and Ironhead both down in Florida, helping out with a great annual charity event they do this time every year with a lot of Penn State football alumni. Really cool to see those guys going and using their platform as, Goon, in the case of being a football letterman, was part of the 1994 Rose Bowl champions. Ironhead, voice of the Penn State defending national champion wrestling team, both going down there and lending their abilities to help raise money for the needy, along with a lot of other Penn State football greats. Really does give you some perspective on the way Nittany Nation reaches far beyond the confines of Happy Valley, and appropriate enough to have that conversation here live from Quaker Steak and Lube on 98.7 The Fox and coming to you live over the internet as we're about to get into Blue White Weekend. maybe based on who you believe and what you believe, the last such spring scrimmage weekend we are going to see here in the Nittany Valley. Now, James Franklin did say not too long ago, as we were getting into spring practice for 2025, an exciting season everybody's really hyped up about, and we're going to have a lot of roster talk about the churn below those returning stars who are headlining what we all believe is a national title contender, that no matter what, spring game changes, trends away from it across the sport, we're seeing Penn State is always going to have some kind of a spring, mid to late April event, a spring homecoming, if you want to call it that, around Penn State football, just because of how important it is to the local economy, what it does for the university and for the program, and the way that it's just become something we all mark on our calendars as an opportunity to come together and for a lot of folks to come back and enjoy Happy Valley and celebrate what it is to be a Penn Stater. So we're going to see a slightly different format on Saturday than we've probably been used to, although based on what James said in his press availability yesterday, I'm thinking it's going to look a lot like what they did in Beaver Stadium up 2 years ago. Now, last year they had a more similar something more similar to a traditional scrimmage. This year, I think we're going to see more situational scenarios, more almost like a structured practice, running clock, not nearly as much time, no halftime. Typically the time that a lot of people who actually bother to go into the game in the first place decide to leave. It's just going to be a singular event. You get a chance to be inside the stadium. Going to be a unique experience, actually, because Saturday is going to be the only time those of us who can pry ourselves away from the tailgate and go into the stadium are going to get to experience that specific iteration of Beaver Stadium. Because if you're watching online and you're not up here, or you just haven't gotten over to campus recently, if you're listening locally, you probably saw the video of the press box coming down. You're probably aware that the majority of the West Side stands have been ripped out, and they are in the process of a two-step, 2-year significant overhaul of the West Side of Beaver Stadium that's not going to be completely ready for the 2025 football season. So there was Beaver Stadium as we've known it, that had its swan song, appropriately enough, with Penn State's first ever playoff win at home over SMU. And then almost immediately they started ripping that thing apart. And next season, there were going to be some temporary stands in place on the West Side. So the only time anyone is ever going to watch Penn State football or some approximation thereof inside Beaver Stadium with this half the West Side gone is going to be on Saturday. And then we'll have something else. So if for nothing else, maybe just go in so you can get the novelty of being able to say you were there and you did it. In terms of the football on Saturday, you're not going to learn a lot. And anybody who suggests that you will is probably yanking your chain a little bit. And fortunately for my colleagues in the media, I've not seen a whole lot of that. I've said, and I said this on the obligatory pregame show that we did, you check it out on the For the Bloggy YouTube channel, about the blue-white game. I've been going for probably about 30 years now. I've been to most of them in that time. And over all that time, I think I can look back on the game versus the season that followed. And a grand total of 2 times I can say, boy, I took something out of that game that I thought really had application to the season. And in both cases, it was about breaking in a new quarterback. Michael Robinson in 2005 and Trace McSorley in 2016, both of whom kind of reassured me with the way they commanded the offense and just the way they looked in those blue-white games. But Penn State's not breaking in a new quarterback in 2025. Fortunately, Drew Aller is back for what I think and hope will be his best season in the blue and white. So we're not going to learn about our starting quarterback. In fact, I would be just fine and dandy with Drew Aller, wearing a ball cap or a sweatband on the sidelines and not taking a single snap. I think we know what Drew is and what he brings to the game. And I am far more interested in some of these position battles that are below the established starters. And that's really almost on both sides of the football, although over the course of the hour here, we are going to talk about Penn State's defense, where I think some fans, as hyped as we all are about this season, and I think as confident as we can be, that Penn State is really now getting back to where it was when it was traditionally in its groove, where you don't rebuild, you reload. So even where there are places where we've seen untested players who will have to step into the void left by a departing veteran, that we can feel pretty confident that that is going to be somebody who's coached up well, who was well scouted as a recruit, whether they came from high school or the transfer portal, and is probably going to perform well when called upon. Nevertheless, more question marks, I think, on the defensive side of the ball in terms of guys who are going to play significant snaps. On offense, it's really more about who are our depth guys, which is important. That's an important concern. Keep in mind that Penn State is playing, and every college football team, playing more games than they ever have before. And we're all hoping Penn State is going to play significantly more games than they ever have prior to last season, because we want to think about the Big Ten championship. We want to think about a deep playoff run. And as a result, you're going to need your depth guys. I have been harping on the obligatory pregame show and podcast repeatedly on depth as one of the critical differentiators for why Penn State is better prepared to contend for the national championship now than they were when they fielded teams with Trace McSorley and Saquon Barkley, guys who will be spoken of for the next 50 years as among the best at their positions in the history of this program. And so I do think there are at least some interesting subplots to follow as we get into blue-white tomorrow. So we're going to talk about that. It is the eve of the first round of the NFL draft. If you're watching online, you'll see I'm wearing my Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl champions shirt. And I have to admit, as a result, Goon loves to tease me about what a draft geek I am. A little bit less geeky this year for me, only because the Eagles are really not in a position to compete for the sexiest talent for great reason, because they're picking at the end of the first round in most rounds as a result of their Lombardi trophy. And because they have drafted so well in previous years, I think the focus is going to shift for Philadelphia to retaining the talent that they have. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, continues to, surprise, surprise, field a championship-ready defense. Big question marks at the quarterback position, which may or may not be addressed in this draft. If I were going to lean one direction or the other, I would say probably not in a serious way. So a little bit more intrigue on the Steelers side. So we'll talk a little NFL draft. Great for the Penn State football program to have two guys who will be selected in the first round tonight, both relatively high. Certainly Abdul Carter slotted to go somewhere in the top 5 picks. The rumor mill is swirling right now that the Chicago Bears have already put in place the framework of a major trade up from their current spot, picking 10th, and some anticipation that perhaps that swap has been engineered with the New York Giants picking 3rd so that Chicago could acquire Abdul Carter. So Abdul Carter is going to go high and Tyler Warren will go high. It's possible they both go in the top 10. And when you're talking about things going well for Penn State, ever since that devastating loss at the end of the Orange Bowl, kind of pivoting into a more positive direction, I think all the great juju around the program for having two guys who are going to get their names called in front of a national television audience tonight is a big part of that. So we'll talk about that as well at the top of the hour here, 3 o'clock, coming to you live from Quaker Steak and Lube in State College, home of, I say it and cannot say it enough, the widest and best selection of wing sauces in Happy Valley, and some of the consistently highest quality service, especially these post-COVID days. It is tough to find a good service in general, but even more so consistently good service. So you know from visit to visit what to expect. And they have not missed a beat. Ever since the pandemic, everybody's complained about how hard it is to keep help, how hard it is to find good, hard, principled workers. I don't know what they're putting in the wing sauce here at Quaker Steak and Lube in State College, but they have not had those problems. So happy to be out here. Invite you to come out and join me at the top of the hour. Like I said, 3 o'clock. Greg Pilowitz, candidate for Penn State Alumni Trustee, is going to join the show, and he'll be prepared to talk about Blue-White Weekend, the NFL Draft, Penn State football roster, Penn State athletics, what's going on with the university, and certainly because this is what you do when you're running for office, I'm sure he can stump for his candidacy a little bit as well. So I'm looking forward to having Greg. Let's circle back to talk about these position battles that are happening in spring ball right now. I've had a chance to peek in on Penn State football practice the last couple of weeks with the rest of the media when they make it available to us. I will tell folks just a brief digression to look behind the curtain a little bit, the way this stuff works. I have off and on been covering Penn State football since I was an undergraduate in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so I have the perspective to be able to compare the experience of interacting with the Joe Paterno era sports information department and the way they handled the media, and now the James Franklin and also the Bill O'Brien, but specifically the James Franklin SID. And it is night and day. I think maybe some younger folks who are on the beat and have only ever experienced just dealing with the sports information folks under James Franklin, they may still bristle at being herded around a little bit, told what they can and can't do in no uncertain terms. Look, nobody really enjoys being told what to do. Let me just say, comparatively speaking, as somebody who's run the gamut here, like I go and I deal with the James Franklin era sports information folks, and I feel like a visiting dignitary compared to what I was used to from where I got started in the business. So we do get a lot of access to the team, the players, the coaches, and to the practices. Last night was probably the first time I actually got to sit and pay attention to and watch the guys and watch the drills, because the last 2 weeks I've been viewing practice exclusively through the front face of my iPhone, getting B-roll footage for forthebloggy.com, the YouTube channel. So if you watch this week's obligatory or you watch any of the videos they've put out in the last few weeks and you see some B-roll from practice, that's your boy. So I did get a few insights, just getting a chance to watch these guys perform and run through these drills. Probably bring those up over the course of the hour here. Again, you're listening to the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. I'm Chris Buchanani from the obligatory PSU pregame show, filling in for the Goon and Ironhead, who are down in Florida with a lot of other Penn State football alums at a charity event. And, I just want to talk a little bit about what we've been seeing play out in practice, and we'll get just a little glimpse of in the blue-white game. Again, to go back to the point about you're not going to learn a whole lot about this year's football team from blue-white. With the format changes that have been announced, I discussed at the top of the show, we're not even really getting a traditional scrimmage. I'm not sure we'll even get the indication that perhaps we have in past years of who's standing out based on who plays with the ones versus the twos, so to speak. Who's the first guy off the bench? How long do they play? Based on how they decide to structure this, we may get none of that. But there are interesting position battles. I talked about quarterback, and behind Drew Aller, there is not a whole lot of experience. A little bit interesting, to me at least, that Penn State eschewed the transfer portal as an option to at least bring in a guy who could perhaps be a veteran backup. Now, interestingly enough, and I talked about this on the latest edition of the obligatory podcast, which just hit your podcast feed. If you are a follower, I was talking with my good friend Mike Levine about this, and he raised the point. Penn State stands out like a sore thumb in the current world of college football because this program has yet to pull a single quarterback out of the transfer portal. And obviously that was not a need in terms of a starter. You did think maybe you would look around and see, is there somebody who fit the profile of a guy who could provide backup insurance? Now, maybe there wasn't. Maybe they just are rigidly committed to the strategy of not being a team that pulls quarterbacks out of the portal, or maybe it's that this staff has seen enough over the last, 12 to 36 months of Ethan Grunkemeyer, who's entering his redshirt freshman season and became the de facto number 2 heading into the playoffs last year when Bo Pribula entered the transfer portal, and Jackson Smolik, who is a name that I suspect a good majority of fans may not even be familiar with, kind of the forgotten man because he was an intriguing recruit when Penn State secured his commitment a few years ago, and then he's either been buried on the depth chart or hurt, and not really able to get into conversations about who's standing out at quarterback. But finally healthy, the buzz we're hearing is that Smolik is really making good on all the qualities that the staff recognized in him when they decided to recruit him, and that James Franklin actually did go out of his way to praise voluminously during his early years with the program. And James very rarely intentionally name drops a player without a good reason. So he was giving you the hint that, hey, we think there might be something to this Smollett kid. And everything we're hearing is that he and Grunkmeyer are battling in a way that is going to carry forward into the summer as to who actually secures that number 2 job of the all-important reserve quarterback behind Drew Aller. And you felt like maybe Grunkemeyer had the inside track just because of the limited amount of experience and reps he got preparing to be first the emergency guy and then the number 2 last year. And maybe the sense that the staff, quote unquote, wanted him to step up and win the job. But look, this is a national championship type of season. The best player is going to play. And if Jackson Smollett, who has been with the program for 3 years and had the opportunity that you hear so many guys talk about being beneficial because he was injured, to just sit back, observe, and mentally absorb everything that goes into playing quarterback at, in an Andy Kotelnicki offense, I would not be shocked at all to see Jackson Smollett step up and win that backup quarterback job, which, as we saw last season at Wisconsin, is a critical position for a team that is trying to win them all and go bring home a national championship. So I think it is going to be intriguing to see certainly what we get from Grunkemeyer, but also just see Jackson Smollett in action with the understanding that he is battling. He is battling to overcome the missed time and be the next guy. And certainly both of these guys are going to hope the trend of not recruiting a transfer portal quarterback continues next season. They are trying to set themselves up to be the heir apparent to Drew Aller when he's gone to the NFL after 2025. So that's a position to watch. Running back. Penn State is blessed to bring back a tandem of tailbacks who are going to rank at the very best to play that position in a long line of legends at Penn State. You definitely at this point can say they are the best duo of running backs that we have had at Penn State since the days of Franco Harris and Lydell Mitchell. If you look at accomplishments of guys who came in and left together, it is really just these two, Katron Allen and Nick Singleton, and Franco and Lydell. That's it. It's a club of 2. Amazingly enough, with a little assistance from those extra games I was talking about, both of them, in some order, very well could end their Penn State careers 1 and 2 on the all-time career rushing list, which is just nuts to me when you consider that they played together in prolific offenses. So that's really remarkable. So we're so lucky to have those guys back, and I can't wait to watch them be the focal point of an offense with a great offensive line, which we're going to have here at Penn State. Behind them, there is a wealth of talent with more in the recruiting pipeline. Certainly all of these guys are not going to finish their careers in blue and white, but right now they're all battling to stick here and be part of a 3 deep at Penn State. There are 3 returning running backs, each with a little bit of a different build and style and a little bit of a different backstory. Coming out of camp last year, the 3rd guy in the rotation, first off the bench, behind Nick and Katron, was Cam Wallace, who is a redshirt sophomore. So a little bit older than all the other guys in the room. And if you remember early on, he looked like he was running hard. He's more of a compact, thickly built guy. And you just nice combination of running back traits. And the staff was very happy with what they saw from him. They felt his maturation was maybe a little bit ahead of the 2 true freshman running backs from last season, who we're going to talk about, Corey Smith and Quentin Martin. But very early on in the season, I want to say in the Bowling Green game, I'm almost positive he sustained a brutal, and I mean just ugly and very unfortunate knee injury, and like that, done for the year. So Cam Wallace is back. He is recovered again. Saw him at practice last night. Looked like he was moving around very comfortably, no brace or anything. So Wallace is very much back in the mix, trying to reclaim that spot that he earned coming out of camp last year. Although his absence did pave the way for Martin, who was an extraordinarily highly touted recruit a guy who was praised for his shiftiness and speed, had a great blue-white game last year, talking about what you can glean from watching these blue-white practices or scrimmages or whatever you want to call them. And Corey Smith, who ended up getting certainly more in the stat column. I'm not going to off the top of my head say he ended up with more carries, but Martin got a little dinged up. When he did get an opportunity to play, looked okay, not like a world beater. I mean, it's a big shift to go from high school to you're playing in the Big Ten as a true freshman. So not like it says very little is what I'm saying. If you don't immediately light the world on fire with regards to Quentin Martin, but people still think very highly of him, somebody with kind of hybrid running back slot receiver potential. But Corey Smith, man, he looked a little smaller, but shiftier, quicker, fast. Folks who are really dialed into this thing will remember him ripping off 70-plus yard run toward the end of the whiteout game against Washington. And so all three of those guys bring a different style. All three of them, to various degrees, clearly impressed the coaching staff enough that they felt comfortable giving them touches early on as underclassmen. And now they all have another year under their belt, and they're all battling to be the first guy off the bench when it's time to spell one of the two superstars at running back. And we all know the issues this program is facing at the wide receiver position. And until those things get sorted out, it's an open question as to personnel groupings and who's going to get on the field. Because, as I said, the best players in a season like this have to play. And so if one of these young backs can distinguish themselves as a strong receiving option, great possibility that maybe they're out there in kind of a flex role, or that we use one of the two star backs and then give the other guy a little bit of a blow by bringing one of his reserves into the game. We saw Andy Kotelnicki use two tailbacks a lot, especially down the stretch more and more in 2024. So added to that trio of returning running backs, we've got a true freshman from Aliquippa who I like a lot. I thought just had a little bit of pop, a little spark to him when I got to watch him for a very limited amount of time in practice. And then James did name drop him specifically in his post-practice media availability yesterday, and that's Tyke Hayes. I don't expect him to go quietly. I expect him to factor in. And again, best players will play. If Tyke Hayes distinguishes himself, he is going to get on the field this year. So it's going to be really fun to me to watch all these young tailbacks in the stadium on Saturday. May not learn a whole heck of a lot about him. I mean, Quentin Martin certainly looked like he had a little more juice in the blue-white game last year than he did when he got in against live competition. But just like with Drew Aller, I really don't see any reason for Katron Allen or Nick Singleton to do anything other than sign autographs and wave to the crowd on Saturday. So let's get these young guys in there and let's let them have an opportunity to show the crowd what they can do. Talking about receiving options outside the wide receiver room, we get to what has just been the golden position group for Penn State for quite a while, and based on what's in the pipeline, will continue to be for some time, that's tight end. I mentioned at the top of the show, again, you're listening to the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. Chris Buchanani here live from State College's Quaker Steak and Lube. Penn State alumni trustee candidate Greg Pilowitz coming in at the top of the hour, and Ironhead and Goon both on assignment down in Florida at a charity event with a bunch of other lettermen. We're going to see Tyler Warren go high in the first round of the NFL draft tonight, possibly a top 10 pick. And you're not going to replace Tyler Warren with one guy, but to quote Moneyball, I think it's possible, given the talent in the room, you replace him in the aggregate. Everybody remembers Luke Reynolds probably most clearly from his role on the season-saving fake punt on fourth down in the Minnesota game. But that was just a reflection of the staff's growing confidence in Reynolds, who was a very highly touted true freshman last season. And he continued to get opportunities, even with Tyler Warren in the mix, and made catches and plays that you looked at and said, that is exactly why he was the top tight end in the nation when we brought him in. This kid is going to be presumptively the number one tight end as a true sophomore heading into this season. but the other guys backing him up are no slouches either. A very different style of player who nevertheless I think will be extraordinarily important to Penn State's offense this year, was last year and the year before, and will continue to be, is number 16, redshirt senior Khalil Dinkins. Just a great blocker, great run blocker. When you've got Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, two guys who can finish 1 and 2, like I said, in some order, your career rushing yards list in the backfield together, run the ball, young man. That's what I tell the Andy Kotelnicki. Just run the ball until they stop it. I mean, you got a road grader like Khalil Dinkins. Absolutely a guy who adds another dynamic to your ability to call those run plays. A little more limited as a pass-catching target. Doesn't have what you would describe as a diverse route tree. If you check out the For the Bloggy YouTube channel, my good buddy Landon Tengwall does an excellent job breaking down these 4 tight ends I'm going to talk about here and their various strengths and weaknesses. Right now, you don't get the dynamism as a receiver out of Khalil Dinkins, but given what I think is going to be the focus of the 2025 offense, which is the ground game, I think for sure you're going to see a whole heck of a lot of Khalil Dinkins out on the field, just doing what he does as a run blocker, and also being somebody who on a play action scenario can leak out and make the opposing defense pay for not taking him seriously as a receiving threat. 2 other guys who have kind of gotten lost in the mix because of the talent at the tight end position, who you hope will get a little more opportunity to shine, at least one of them, Andrew Rappelier and Joey Schlaffer. Both really big, kind of more, remind you both a little bit more the way Pat Fryermuth was built, look a little bit more the traditional tight end, but great athleticism, both blocking and pass catching abilities, both. Rappelier was in line to be the number 2 guy before his season was cut short by injuries last year. So you expect him to factor in as well. And then, of course, James Franklin gets a coup on the recruiting trail by flipping a late switch from Michigan to Penn State out of a top in-state recruit. Andrew Olesh, another one of the top tight ends in America, commits to Penn State. A talent that most people believe is just going to be too bright to keep off the field, even in his true freshman campaign. So how does he work in? Is he picking up enough of the things you need to do as a tight end in a collegiate offense that he is going to just work into that rotation and compete with Rappelier or maybe Schlaffer to be the number 2 guy? Or again, does he step in more to almost just simply a flex receiving role where he doesn't have to worry about, as many different aspects of the game as maybe you do playing as an inline tight end, but you just want to take advantage of his speed, his athleticism, his ability to win jump balls, and just look for opportunities to make mismatches in a scenario where you may not just have a whole lot of confidence once again in your wide receivers. So it'll be interesting to see if 88 gets some run in the blue-white game tomorrow. And just what we see from some of these other tight ends, specifically what we get out of Rappelier and Schlaffer. And again, I know I keep saying this, but I just want to make it clear. I am not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes and make them believe that we are going to learn anything meaningful about the 2025 team from Saturday's goings on. Again, we're not even sure exactly what it's going to look like. But if you're going to go into the stadium and, you're going to get that chance to be inside, the only time Beaver Stadium is ever going to look like it looks on Saturday, you might as well have some things to watch for. So who is doing what after Luke Reynolds at the tight end spot? Something to watch. And listen, there's no guarantee that Reynolds is going to be the number 1 guy, but I'll be shocked if he isn't, just based on his talent and based on the precedent of how much he played last season. So when we come back on the other side, we're going to keep talking about Penn State football, a roster that looks primed to contend for the 2025 national title. We'll talk about the offensive line. We're going to talk about the dreaded wide receiver room. We're going to go over to the defensive side of the ball, where I think some of the bigger questions, and in my opinion, the sneaky biggest question for 2025 for Penn State football resides. So that'll all be on the other side of this break. You are listening to the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. We're live at State College's Quaker Steak Lube. We're on 98.7 The Fox, and I will be right back.
There's only one dealer in Happy Valley that always goes to the mat to get you the best deals. It's Lion Country Kia.
Hi, this is Penn State wrestler Mitchell Messenbrink. Lion Country Kia has been serving Happy Valley for 15 years now. They helped me purchase my new Kia, and they would love to help you too.
Lion Country Kia is waiting for you with 85 vehicles in stock and ready to go. Choose from 13 2025 Kia Sportages and 16 2025 Kia Sorentos with financing as low as 3.49% for 72 months or total savings of over $4,000. And of course, every new Kia comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Let us go to the mat to get you the best deals. Lion Country Kia, 1334 Drybowl Street off Shiloh Road behind Sam's Club, State College. Warranty is a limited powertrain warranty. For details, see dealer or go to kia.com.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
I'm the Modelo Recruiter, and I'm looking for fans with good hands and great speed. The ones who stay focused and never miss a play. They go the distance on game day, even when their team is away. I'm always watching, always looking to reward more full-time fans. Because football isn't really football without you.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Lusk & Associates, Sotheby's International Realty proudly presents the introduction of our new State College office at 314 South Borough Street in State College. At Sotheby's International Realty, we advertise locally, nationally, and internationally, bringing the best of advertising and promotion to each and every one of our properties, big or small. Call now.
Hi, welcome to Timberland Federal Credit Union, a financial cooperative for its members, tracing all the way back to 1973.
Experience Timberland Federal Credit Union, where you're greeted with a smile and financial solutions are tailored to your unique life journey. Here, we're not just financial professionals, we're your neighbors, people invested in your financial needs, literacy, and empowerment. Your dreams matter to us, whether they're about buying a home, growing a nest egg, or embarking on new adventures. TFCU draws from the past and invests in the future, offering modern tools like online banking to give you the freedom to manage your money practically anytime. Additionally, we're passionate about giving back both time and resources because enhancing our community is at the core of why we're here. Visit TFCU in person or online to learn more about our services and apply for a membership today.
WFXS, once again,
The Fox,
your sports radio.
Broadcasting live, loud and proud from Central PA's Sports Authority, WFXS America.
98.7 The Fox, State College, the Goon and Ironhead.
Yeah, no Goon, no Ironhead, but welcome back, everybody, to the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. We're live at Quaker Steak Lube here in State College. I say we, it's really just me. I'm flying solo for the remainder of the hour. Chris Buchanani from the obligatory PSU podcast, pinch hitting for the Goon and Ironhead today as we get ready for Blue White Weekend and first round of the NFL Draft. Tonight, at the top of the hour, I am going to be joined by Greg Pilowitz, candidate for alumni trustee here at Penn State. So we'll be talking sports and a little bit of trustee politics here with Greg. Looking forward to that. But before the break, I was going through the Penn State roster and talking about the different position battles in places where there is going to be some intrigue in who provides the critical depth in a season where Penn State will be chasing the national championship this fall. So we talked about quarterback, the battle to be the number 2 behind Drew Aller between Jackson Smolik coming off injury and true sophomore Ethan Grunkemeyer. Redshirt freshman. He didn't cross that redshirt threshold. Practically no one does anymore because you have to play so many games before they take it away from you. We talked about the battle for third running back behind Nick and Katron, the wealth of talent at tight end. Let's talk about the wide receiver room, and let's talk about the guys who are going to facilitate all of it on the offensive line. Let's go to receiver first, simply because I know it is such a pain point for everybody. Now, we understand that we have brought in 2 guys out of the transfer portal because you lost 2 of last year's most productive receivers. Now, again, I say most productive, maybe a little deceptive, but we no longer have the services of Harrison Wallace or Omari Evans. I don't think either one of those guys was. I don't want to say that either one of them is going to flame out in their next destination. Okay. I don't want to say they were bad. And I don't think they were locker room issues. I just think we got to a point because of the way last year played out that we probably needed to have a mutual parting of the ways. But what does that mean? It means going into a season where you're being talked about as the potential number 1 team in America. Now, I don't think it's going to shake out that way in the preseason, and frankly, I don't want it, but Penn State is in that conversation. Your leading returning receivers are your running back, Nick Singleton, has more receiving yards as a returning player than anyone else on the roster. And then you got Liam Clifford. You got one wide receiver who was far down the list in terms of leading receivers on your football team. So this is a concern. And you're bringing in, you bring in Kyron Hudson from USC, who, well, probably most people still remember best from the circus catch he made along the sidelines against LSU early on in the season last year, and Devontae Ross, who came over from Troy. And now the question with Ross, who's, got a nice frame on him and a lot of speed and tore up Iowa when Troy played him last year, is which direction does he go as a guy making the jump up to the next level? Is this Mitchell Tinsley, who came to Penn State from Western Kentucky, played 1 year, and really was a nice complement to a Rose Bowl champion offense? Or is it Dante Cephas, who came from Kent State, was the highest ranked receiver in the transfer portal, I thought looked great, had a tremendous looking skill set when he was playing MAC competition with the Golden Flashes, and just could never put it together with, an FBS Power 4 offense at Penn State or at Kansas State, where he was last year after it didn't work out with the Nittany Lions. So you're hoping that it's the former for Ross. And based on what we're hearing, the staff is really, really liking what they're seeing from him. They say attitude-wise, he is really acclimated to what it means to be part of the Penn State football program, something you didn't conspicuously hear about Dante Cephas when he came in and joined the program. Same thing, he really, really does seem to be taken to the strength training program with Chuck Losey. Chuck is known for being able to put weight on guys. You don't want to put too much weight on a speedster. But Ross has filled out that frame a little bit. And Hudson, I think was a really smart acquisition for Penn State. He just seems like a reliable, workman-like guy, the type of player you like to have in an offense. Maybe not exactly the same kind of build, but just in terms of the role he plays, maybe would remind you a lot of what Jordan Norwood brought to Penn State's offenses for so many years, which is just steady Eddie. We need a guy who's going to know his assignments, run crisp routes, and when the ball gets to him, he's not going to drop it. 0 drops last season at USC. That's Kyron Hudson. But those are the out-of-house guys. In-house, you've got to be able to recruit talent, or I don't know how you seriously fancy yourself a national championship contender. And that starts with the name Tyseer Denmark, who was a late flip from Oregon in the recruiting process. So clearly, being pursued by a team that brings in high-level talent and runs a high-octane passing offense. Got a lot of praise in camp last year, saw limited opportunities as a true freshman. Did get to return some punts, did famously drop a wide-open, beautifully thrown deep ball from Bro Pribula in one of his few opportunities to get playing time as Penn State was blowing out Purdue. Our fans are so psychologically scarred by what we have seen from the the passing game over the last few years that I think some of them already checked out on Tysier Denmark after he dropped a single ball as a true freshman. I would caution you against such rash behavior. If you remember Mike Gesicki as a sophomore in 2015, poor guy couldn't catch a cold and then turned around to be one of the best tight ends we've ever had at Penn State. So players can learn and grow, and I'm not ready to write off Tysier Denmark just yet. I will tell you at practice, he looks good. The coaches are coaching him up very hard. You see Marcus Higgins and James Franklin and some of the other assistants coming over and really dialing in on those Denmark reps and giving him a lot of coaching and guidance, which to me, especially in the spring, I take as a positive. This is somebody who they intend to get on the field, and they're trying to do everything they can to clean up all those little details in his game. So he's best prepared to contribute early on. Because assuming Penn State doesn't make another addition at the receiver position out of the transfer portal as it remains open this spring, which they could, but I don't think they have to. Denmark is most likely the guy, other than the two transfers I just spoke about, who will play early. And then, of course, you have Liam Clifford also, who, as I mentioned, is the most experienced tenured guy in your receiver room. Caden Saunders, a guy who was considered potentially good enough to contribute as a true freshman when he got to Penn State, did not do that, and then just has had some ups and downs, both in terms of his health and the consistency of his play when he has gotten out there. He's really in do or die mode right now, I think. And you've not heard a whole lot about him in the spring, which concerns you because you would like to see your more experienced guys take that step and contribute more. So if that doesn't happen, I think your best case scenario is, with the way the schedule plays out, you come out of summer camp feeling like the two transfer guys you brought in here and paid, I'm sure, to play starting roles are ready to do that. And again, we've not heard anything about Kyron Hudson or Devontae Ross that they won't be. They might not be world beaters, but that could be 100% true, and they could still represent a substantial upgrade in the passing game based on what Penn State's had at wide receiver the last couple of years. Then you hope also that you can continue to get some contributions here and there from Liam Clifford, and that Tysier Denmark is ready to go. Penn State's schedule, the way it plays out this year, is you start with 3 games that you can take a big old Sharpie marker and put in the W. You host Nevada, Florida International, and Villanova. Then you get a bye week, and Oregon comes to town. So that's a month. That's 4 straight weeks that you can continue to give young guys reps. And if Penn State is going to build depth and have competition at the receiver spots, it's going to come from young players. Again, this is presuming no more additional portal receivers. I know Trevor Pena from Syracuse has been rumored to be a coveted target by Penn State. He's considered the best receiver in the transfer portal, which, is maybe the one-eyed man in the kingdom of the blind right now, but that does make him a coveted asset on the open market. So his dollar value continues to rise, and I question the wisdom of investing financial resources at for a just okay slot receiver who maybe then also breeds a little resentment in your locker room when he shows up out of the blue after everybody else have been busting their butts since winter workouts, and he's got a fatter paycheck than a lot of the guys who have been here. We have seen that be an issue other places in college football, maybe derailed Ole Miss's pursuit of a playoff berth last year and assisted Ohio State's run of the national championship when Quinshad Judkins resented all the newcomers who were making more money than he was down in Mississippi and decided to hop in the portal and go north to Columbus. So, yeah, I think I am looking at these young guys Penn State has recruited, and just one of them has to break through. right? I feel like I've been saying this for 2 years, but doesn't law of averages tell you that if you're continuing to take swings at this position and you've got the ability that Penn State has demonstrated consistently over a long period of time to identify high-level talent, you've got a great coaching environment, you've got all the resources you could want to develop college football players, you've got smart coordinators, position coaches, you've got the pedigree of one of the best college football programs in the country. You got to get one of these right eventually, don't you? You've got to find somebody who can create some separation and make an opposing defense pay beyond Andy Kotelnicki, the wizard scheming up some way to get you open. So here are the names to watch. 3 true freshman wide receivers. Kobe Howard, Florida kid, 5'7", 197. Lyric Samuel out of New York. One thing Penn State has done well is go up into the state of New York, which is not a high school football hotbed, and pinpoint the 2 or 3 Division I football players out of that state and get them here to Happy Valley. So we're really good. We talk about a lot recruiting Eastern and Western Ohio. We talk about New Jersey going down into West Virginia in the DMV. We think about that as our natural recruiting footprint. Pulling a few key guys out of New England and New York, places that tend to get overlooked because they don't have a lot of great players. And that, are still, in terms of geographic proximity outside Syracuse and Boston College, quote unquote, close to home for the commits. If they're looking to play big time Division I football, that's been a really nice strategy employed by the coaching staff. So Lyric Samuel looking to be the latest of those guys, certainly the tallest, biggest bodied. And then the guy I think if I had to put my money on somebody coming in and making an impact as a true freshman this year, it would be, talking about the DMV of Virginia kid out of Portsmouth, Matthew Outen, 6'1", 215, big kid, has looked good in practice. And then one other name to talk about is Peter Gonzalez, who is a redshirt freshman, missed all of last year with an injury, but came into the program considered to be polished for a high school prospect. And just everything you hear about him, top to bottom, he's what you want out of a Penn State football player. Mature, intelligent, and, great genes. Son of an NFL player, son of a Pittsburgh Panther, so appreciate having the progeny in blue and white. So he is not going to play on Saturday. James talked about him actually a little bit specifically yesterday. He said in terms of his recovery timeline, he is doing individual work, not even cleared for contact or one-on-ones or anything. So it's going to be, some are very important for Pete Gonzalez. And in all likelihood, some of these guys, they really don't start to put it together and they don't start to build enough confidence from the coaching staff until you get into the season. And that's why I talk about the way that schedule sets up and those 3 easier games to start out the season followed by the bye week. I do think that leaves a little breathing room for all 4 of those young guys I just talked about, the 3 true freshmen plus Gonzalez, to make up ground. I'm not saying they're going to be on the field against Oregon, but what I am saying is by the midpoint of the season, they are going to have an opportunity to put it together and let their talent shine through and push these other guys. We're going to play the best players. And these transfer portal kids, the coaching staff owes them nothing other than however many millions of dollars it took to get them here. They don't owe them playing time. You can't tie that to the money because that would be illegal. So the best players will play. And you hope against hope, you pray to whatever deities you believe in, that finally, mercifully, the wide receiver position gets figured out. But if it doesn't, at least you do have options out of the running back and tight end rooms to paper that over a little bit. But again, it's tough. It's tough to compete for a national championship without a competent group of receivers. Then again, just 2 years ago, Michigan, with a great offensive line, a great duo of running backs, and possibly a profuse amount of cheating, did essentially ground and pound their way all the way to the national title. Would not break my heart if Penn State does the exact same thing the exact same way, but history tells you got to be able to pass the ball, and you need some guys who can catch it and stretch opposing defenses. They can't do any of those things. Most certainly not ground and pound your way to the title without road graders at the line of scrimmage. And if there's an MVP of Penn State football over the last few years, I think it is Phil Troutwine, the offensive line coach. Because what he has done, both in terms of recruiting elite level talent to Penn State and then developing it once it gets here, has been paradigm shifting for the program, frankly. If you look at the starting O-line, you return 4 starters, all 4 of whom you feel terrific about. Drew Shelton holding down left tackle, Venga Ioane, both of whom are NFL prospects at left guard. Nick Dawkins, another guy who I think is going to get his opportunity to play at the next level, and it is just as solid a citizen and human being as you were going to find. Just another one of those guys, kind of in the tradition of John Herschel, a guy who's a great offensive lineman, but just a great person as well. So you've got all 3 of those guys, plus you've got Nolan Rucci, who had an opportunity to step in and learn and play and improve and play very, very well down the stretch of a playoff run for Penn State. When the starter, Anthony Donka, was injured at right tackle, really all you lose off that great offensive line last year is Salim Wormley at right guard. And, I hope Sal gets an opportunity. I don't know if he's going to hear his name called this weekend, but I hope he gets an opportunity in the league. I think he's good enough to play on Sundays. You've got good options there, and I think barring something that is going to shock the heck out of me, it's going to be the young man Cooper Cousins filling that void at right guard. If you don't know the name, Cooper was a true freshman last year, considered to be the long-term future at the center position for Penn State after Nick Dawkins moves on after 2025, but just too good to not get on the field. Played a lot as a true freshman last year and played well, and I think is in line to be a starter this year. Now, behind those guys, again, you talk about the importance of depth when attrition can be something that can derail an offense on the offensive line. Playing more games than ever, guys are going to miss snaps. Penn State's in a position where I feel like they have a legitimate 2 deep across the board on the offensive line. And when I say legitimate, I mean guys who can step in and play in competitive Big Ten football games and give Penn State a chance to win by virtue of their play. You're not going to have to cover for them. You're not going to have to change the scheme to make it easier. Yes, you will see some drop-off to the starter, from the starter to the backup. That's the way this thing works. But the question is, how steep, how precipitous a drop-off? I feel great about the 2 deep for Penn State. J.B. Nelson, a guy I would have loved to keep in the fold, but not the type of player you keep these days in the transfer portal. JUCO transfer, who was an upperclassman looking to play more, maybe looking for a little bit more of a payday, jumps into the transfer portal. That to me is indicative that for sure Cooper Cousins and potentially TJ Shanahan, a transfer portal through the winter window from Texas A&M at the guard position, have both maybe moved ahead of JB, or at least Shanahan was in close competition for him. So you expect maybe that he'll provide TJ Shanahan, the primary backup at both of the guard spots. And then Alex Birchmeyer, who is in his 3rd year with the program and was a highly touted recruit, was name dropped by James Franklin just recently as somebody who's really starting to put it together. So you'll love to hear that. You love to hear a guy with that kind of pedigree. There was a little bit of concern, just it wasn't moving along. If you think back to the Landon Tengwall recruitment, he was considered, this can't-miss 5-star prospect, and almost from day one, a little bit of an acclimation period. You start hearing, this guy is working his way into the 2 deep. Yes, this guy is going to be a starter, and Birchmeyer didn't follow that path. Reminded me a little bit more maybe of Michael Mennett, the guard center you saw back about 4 or 5 years ago. highly touted as a high school recruit, took a couple years to have the body and the brain, frankly, to be prepared to work his way into the two deep. It sounds like that's the situation with Birchmeier. Javen Williams, highly touted tackle recruit a couple of years ago, has gotten an opportunity to play a lot of reps as Penn State, I think very wisely, has been incredibly careful with its veterans. If you have a hangnail, they'll probably let you sit out if you're an established vet. So Williams, again, I think is somebody who will provide critical depth at both tackle positions. And then we circle back to Anthony Donko, who I mentioned was injured last year and paved the way for Nolan Rucci to step in and I think win that starting right tackle job. Because of the schedule and the way it lays out in those easy games early in the bye week before Oregon, I think you can take a guy like Donko and you can rest him through most, if not all, of September. Give him all the opportunity to get back to 100% and play no or at least limited snaps. When he comes back, I think he creates a tantalizing opportunity for the starting five for Penn State because one of two things happens. Everything is gelling on the offensive line, and you just feel great about that starting five I just talked about. You know, Shelton, Ioane, Dawkins, Cousins, and then Rucci at right tackle. Or you look at it and you say, well, when he was healthy in 2024, Anthony was our best offensive lineman in the run game. We feel like he's developing at the right tackle position, so that is going to be a competition as it was last year. Week to week, we're going to rotate those guys, and you're going to have to make the most of your reps at the right tackle spot, talking about Donko and Rucci. But what about this? For as much as I love Cooper Cousins, and as much as he has had so much hype around him, the young man's early in his career. We're chasing a national championship. We're expecting the offense to go through the run, and you want to put your best players on the field and your best five out there on the offensive line. What if Andy Kotelnicki pulls a Jeff Stoutland and uses the Philadelphia Eagles strategy that helped them win a Super Bowl with Saquon Barkley in the backfield this past year? And that's convert a tackle prospect, as the Eagles did with Mekhi Becton, into a big old right guard who's just a road grader who opens the way for your punishing run game. So could we see, going into October, a Penn State offensive line that beefs up by putting its best talent on the field and using Anthony Donko at right guard, even if it's a rotation with Cooper Cousins? I think there are some really exciting possibilities. And to me, what just warms my blue and white heart is that the position group that year after year, through much of James Franklin's tenure, was the standout liability holding the team back, is now the position of strength. And if there's one thing we know about football at every level, you can't get it done at the line of scrimmage. You can't dominate on the offensive line. You're going nowhere fast. So that's the offensive side of the football. A lot of intrigue on the roster. Feel great about the established talent at the top. And it is just going to be a competition among talented young men to fill out that depth chart and be there to be next man up when they're inevitably called upon over the course of the 2025 season. We'll take another break here. We're live at Quaker Steak and Lube. Chris Buchanani filling in for Keith Goon, Conlin, and Jeff the Ironhead Byers. It is the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show live on 98.7 The Fox. We'll be right back.
There's only one dealer in Happy Valley that always goes to the mat to get you the best deals. It's Lion Country Kia.
Hi, this is Penn State wrestler Mitchell Messenbrink. Lion Country Kia has been serving Happy Valley for 15 years now. They helped me purchase my new Kia, and they would love to help you too.
Lion Country Kia is waiting for you with 85 vehicles in stock and ready to go. Choose from 13 2025 Kia Sportages and 16 2025 Kia Sorentos with financing as low as 3.49% for 72 months or total savings of over $4,000. And of course, every new Kia comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Let us go to the mat to get you the best deals. Lion Country Kia, 1334 Dryboven Street off Shiloh Road behind Sam's Club, State College.
Warranty is a limited powertrain warranty. For details, see dealer or go to kia.com.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food. Get to Quaker Steak Lube.
I'm the Modelo Recruiter, and I'm looking for fans with good hands and great speed. The ones who stay focused and never miss a play. They go the distance on game day, even when their team is away. I'm always watching, always looking to reward more full-time fans. Because football isn't really football without you.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Lusk & Associates, Sotheby's International Realty proudly presents the introduction of our new State College office at 314 South Borough Street in State College. At Sotheby's International Realty, we advertise locally, nationally, and internationally, bringing the best of advertising and promotion to each and every one of our properties, big or small. Call now.
Hi, welcome to Timberland Federal Credit Union, a financial cooperative for its members, tracing all the way back to 1973.
Experience Timberland Federal Credit Union, where you're greeted with a smile and financial solutions are tailored to your unique life journey. Here, we're not just financial professionals, we're your neighbors, people invested in your financial needs, literacy, and empowerment. Your dreams matter to us, whether they're about buying a home, growing a nest egg, or embarking on new adventures. TFCU draws from the past and invests in the future, offering modern tools like online banking to give you the freedom to manage your money practically anytime. Additionally, we're passionate about giving back both time and resources because enhancing our community is at the core of why we're here. Visit TFCU in person or online to learn more about our services and apply for a membership today.
WFXS. Once again.
The Fox.
Your sports radio.
Broadcasting live, loud and proud from Central PA's Sports Authority. WFXS America.
98.7. The Fox. State College. The Goon and Ironhead.
Hey, yo, we're back here at State College's Quaker Steak and Lube. We are live on 98.7 The Fox. It's the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show, and there's no Goon. And there's no Ironhead because bless those guys, they're out doing some great charity work with a lot of other Penn State lettermen down in the Sunshine State. Although, I don't know, with the weather we're having here in Happy Valley, I don't know that I'd want to trade places with them. So this is Chris Briganani from the obligatory PSU pregame show, filling in for those two jokers. And I now do finally have a running mate, so I don't have to fly solo. I'm joined by candidate for alumni trustee in the election that is going on right now. If you're a Penn State alum, you can vote, check your email box, or go to the website, which I want to say is like PSU Vote or Votes.
PennStateVotes.com.
There you go. Greg Pillowitz, you know to give the URL because that's the way you're going to get votes to be on the board.
That's right.
And better
That's
you
right.
than me, my friend.
Glutton. That's what I said. You know, my wife is calling me anyway.
Well, and she's not wrong. But at the same time, it is, it's something to be willing to step up and commit at least 3 years, probably more, you hope, of service to alma mater. I really appreciate everyone who is willing to step into that. Again, it's a sports show. We're going to talk a lot of Nittany Lions athletics. I know you're the father of two college athletes.
Yep.
We're going to talk about that a little bit before we get going into trustee stuff.
Sure. No, I had two young boys that one came in. Both were technically walk-ons.
Okay.
One played for Coach Cooper on the Penn State baseball team.
Okay.
Five-year pitcher. And then right at the tail end of his last year, my other son came in as a walk-on hockey player.
Awesome.
And both just had, amazing experiences under the Penn State athletics umbrella. It was just unbelievable.
Well, you're talking about two of my favorite head coaches we have had here in Happy Valley, and I've been here for a long time. Love Guy, and I really like what Mike Gambino's doing with the baseball program, but I loved Rob Cooper. Really, that guy was a Nittany Lion for sure.
He really was. He gave it his all, and unfortunately, you do have to.
It's a business.
It is a business.
Yeah.
It is a business. Yep. But Coach Gambino, let me tell you, handed the keys over to the right guy. He is special,
that way.
And his team is performing. They're winning series in the Big Ten, which is, you got to take 2 or 3 just to get into the darn playoffs in the Big Ten, and he's doing it. And that's all the kudos in the world. And he's such a nice man too. So I can't speak enough about the program.
Love it. I mean, I was just commenting on X earlier today. Penn State up to number 4 in the Learfield Cup standings, which is where we belong. For those of you unfamiliar, so that would mean the smarter, more socially well-adjusted in the audience to even be aware of such a thing. This is they've been having this for a long time. I remember all the way back to when it was the Sears Cup.
Yeah.
It's basically like the overall sports program quality of all the big-time athletic programs in the country. Penn State used to finish in the top 5 of this thing on an annual basis.
We would lose to the schools, like the Stanfords.
Yeah, Stanford's like number 1 every single year. They win. Like 75 sports.
Exactly. But being 4th in the Learfield, I mean, a lot of kudos to Pat Kraft and his coaching staff. They're recruiting, every day. Their lives, especially with NIL, has changed dramatically. But Pat's got them going in the right direction. They each team believes they can win, and that's a big step when you get that. And I can't wait to see what next year brings, especially since we won a few national championships this year, and had a few teams in the whether it be the Final Four or Frozen Four, and very special year it was.
Yeah, men's lacrosse. You're up next, by the way, talking about those national championships.
Yes.
So we're talking with Greg Pilowitz. He's a candidate for alumni trustee. That election going on through the remainder of this month and the beginning of May. Greg, you're running on a ticket. You can see the yard signs around town if you're listening locally and you're driving around with Jordan Mott, certainly most famous among the majority of Penn State fans for dropping the coin to take advantage of USC's NIL fundraising and run out of the tunnel with the USC football team at the Penn State game, which is pretty cool.
That's right.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, Jordan,
the ticket I'm talking about, not him running out.
Sure. Well, Jordan and I, met each other, and and again, I had to do a little research on the individual that I wanted to at least be put out there with and at least published with, and yes, sorry about the yard signs. Sorry about the social media.
Folks, guys, you got to do it.
Yeah, you only have to put up with it probably for another week or so. And
products that don't have marketing don't sell.
There you go. But Jordan's a bright young man, and I say young because he's nowhere near my age, but a bright young man. He's got a lot of the same values. He is Penn State through and through. And yes, when I was doing my research on him, I of course I talked to my kids, and they said, "Dad, look at the video." And I, of course, I see him in blue and white in Penn State shirt coming out of the USC tunnel ahead of the USC football team, and I just could only imagine somebody paying to do that at Penn State. I don't know how far they'd get out of the tunnel, but it was rather a unique video that I saw, and I said, well, I've got to at least talk to this young man, and we hit it off, and we're sharing responsibilities in terms of going out and promoting ourselves. He's promoting Jordan Mott, I'm promoting Greg Pilowitz. We're running together because we bring a lot to the table at the same time, and I like it. So
now Greg, we joked, and I'll be honest, it was half joking with me about the rigmarole you have signed up for, both in the campaigning and then if you make it onto the board, everything involved with that. Talk a little bit about your own decision-making process in deciding to seek the position.
Sure. Well, I'm a 4th generation Penn Stater.
I love that.
We've had, grandfathers and fathers and not just my wife and I, my sister, her family, my family, and you know, cousins, nieces, nephews, and again, it just became, you know, so clear to me that Penn State is more than just part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never really had the opportunity to give back to this university. You know, you can't match the dollars that really make, you know, a difference. You know, Terry Pagula is the amazing one in our world here. But, and again, I don't mean it in a bad way. Dollars are one thing. We're all giving back to the university financially, but I wanted to give back to Penn State in a different way. And I have been part of advisory boards. I've been a consultant to the university, but it's still left a void. And this is, to me, the way I wanted to do it. I've been an executive for over 20 some years. I've made the decisions that boards need to make. I've been on boards as well. So I look at this very, very much in line with what I want to do in life. And, you know, Penn State they've got challenges, and I won't go in too much into the challenges, but they do have some hard decisions to make. And, you know, board members, this was described to me the other day. They said, we're not being voted on to run the university. That's our administration. They're hired to do that job. And you got to give them credit because they all have tough jobs. They've got to go out there every day and make hard decisions. We're there to make sure that what they're making in terms of a decision is the best decision. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's not an option, you know, and again, they're presenting something, and what's the alternative? And you know, okay, you make that decision based on the time of day and where you are, and you know what it means. And quite frankly, I think that, you know, we have an influence. We're going to influence, and we're going to think of things perhaps the administration's not thinking about, and then we go forward. And so I'm looking forward to the opportunity. Obviously, you know, voting is very important, and you know, Penn State alumni have spoken quite a bit, and I've had those conversations with so many different ones. And of course, you get social media, people, you know, saying, "Are you thinking about this? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that?" And you know, you want to say yes to everybody, but there's some hard decisions, and I have my own personal, you know, things I can put my experience to and say, I'm going to do a very, very good job at this or that.
And you'll also only be one vote in a deliberative body. I think it's always tough to ask a whole lot of any one trustee candidate, mm-hmm. because all you can really do is talk about the perspective you bring to the position, mm-hmm. why you chose to seek it, I think is important, which is why I asked you that. And then, you know, you just do the best you can in service to Old State. And it was, you know, kind of a complicated situation that, again, on this program, I don't think we really need to go into deliberating all the issues that are going to come before the university over the next few years. Although you're right, they will be considerable.
Yeah.
I do, talking with Greg Pilowitz, candidate for Penn State Board of Trustees. Your ballot position, by the way, your number is?
Number 16. And I sent a representative, and this woman was wonderful. She stepped in for me to do the drawing.
Yeah.
She came back and said, I didn't do so well. I said, well, how many, there were 17 and I got number 16. So you get picked out of a hat, basically.
You know what? You're okay, Greg, because, you know, when you got a last name like Buchanani or Pilowitz, it's easily distinguishable from the crowd. Yeah. So what I am curious about, though, is now that you've had a few weeks out in the field, so to speak, mm-hmm. what has the experience of running for alumni trustee at Penn State been like for you?
Actually, it's been incredible.
Okay.
You know, as little sleep as I've been getting.
Is that right?
Well, I was not very good at social media, and I'm talking about, you know, the communication part of it, back and forth and back and forth.
Yes. You know what? You win points with me when you say that. Anybody who says I'm not good at social media, to me, translate into I am good at being a rational human being.
Yes.
So credit to you.
Yeah. But I read a lot on social media. You know, I got my form of news and sports updates through social media. And again, I loved it. But then I kept getting, you know, the whispers in my ear. You're not replying. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. And then you're not producing, you know, the videos. So that's where I want to apologize. So for those of you that are seeing my rather, I'm trying to take this election and put it into context of, I'm here, guys. I'm at the university. I'm the only candidate today that lives in State College.
Is that right?
Yeah, there's some on the periphery, and there's one individual that's running as a write-in that I believe he lives in State College.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes.
But
sure.
he's technically not on the ballot.
Right.
But my point is, I'm here in State College. I exercise, I walk, I do things through the university because it is such an amazing place to just be able to canvas and go up to the stadium and see the progress that they're making up there. Go to sporting events. So I'm posting videos, half of my face and the rest of it, with the ballpark behind me.
Right.
And, again, people are poking fun at it, mainly my own family, but they're poking fun at it because they're seeing me more and more online, and I never used to do that. So, again, it's fun to do. It's stepping out of a shell that I just never, sitting on a radio station. I applaud you guys. The first thing I said to her, I said, if I didn't show up, you got 2 hours to speak on sports, and it's an art form. It
Child's
really
play. Child's play, Greg. There's so many good stories to talk about. And so I know you're a big sports guy. I know you're a Philly guy, fortunately. Makes me very happy.
Yep.
We're going to hop to a break here. There's a lot going on in the Penn State football world, a lot to be excited about going into 2025. And, we're going to get a peek, and I do mean just a very tiny, largely inconsequential peek into that on the blue-white game on Saturday. So I think we'll talk a little bit about the football team on the other side, and it's NFL draft night. Philadelphia Eagles are picking 32nd because they are defending Super Bowl champions. We'll talk about that too. Greg Pilowitz, candidate for Penn State trustee, with me here on 98.7 The Fox on the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show, live from Quaker Steak and Lube here in State College. We'll be right back after this.
There's only one dealer in Happy Valley that always goes to the mat to get you the best deals. It's Lion Country Kia.
Hi, this is Penn State wrestler Mitchell Messenbrink. Lion Country Kia has been serving Happy Valley for 15 years now. They helped me purchase my new Kia, and they would love to help you too.
Lion Country Kia is waiting for you with 85 vehicles in stock and ready to go. Choose from 13 2025 Kia Sportages and 16 2025 Kia Sorentos with financing as low as 3.49% for 72 months or total savings of over $4,000. And of course, every new Kia comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Let us go to the mat to get you the best deals. Lion Country Kia, 1334 Dropova Street off Shiloh Road behind Sam's Club, State College.
Warranty is a limited powertrain warranty. For details, see dealer or go to kia.com.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
I'm the Modelo Recruiter, and I'm looking for fans with good hands and great speed. The ones who stay focused and never miss a play. They go the distance on game day, even when their team is away. I'm always watching, always looking to reward more full-time fans. Because football isn't really football without you.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Lusk & Associates, Sotheby's International Realty proudly presents the introduction of our new State College office at 314 South Borough Street in State College. At Sotheby's International Realty, we advertise locally, nationally, and internationally, bringing the best of advertising and promotion to each and every one of our properties, big or small. Call now.
Hi, welcome to Timberland Federal Credit Union, a financial cooperative for its members, tracing all the way back to 1973.
Experience Timberland Federal Credit Union, where you're greeted with a smile and financial solutions are tailored to your unique life journey. Here, we're not just financial professionals, we're your neighbors, people invested in your financial needs, literacy, and empowerment. Your dreams matter to us, whether they're about buying a home, growing a nest egg, or embarking on new adventures. TFCU draws from the past and invests in the future, offering modern tools like online banking to give you the freedom to manage your money practically anytime. Additionally, we're passionate about giving back both time and resources because enhancing our community is at the core of why we're here. Visit TFCU in person or online to learn more about our services and apply for a membership today.
WFXS, once again, the Fox, your sports radio. Broadcasting live, loud and proud from Central PA's Sports Authority, WFXS America. 98.7, the Fox, State College, the Goon and Ironhead.
The Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show live from State College's Quaker Steak and Lube, home of the widest selection and best selection of wing sauces in the Nittany Valley. Come on out and join us here at Quaker Steak and Lube. We're live on 98.7 The Fox. The Goon and Ironhead aren't here. Obviously, Chris Bucanani, obligatory PSU pregame show host, and Greg Billowitz, candidate for Penn State Alumni Trustee, ballot position number 16. Polls are still open. Check your email. Doing our best Goon and Ironhead impression. And Greg, we get to have spring homecoming this weekend.
I'm looking forward to it. Other than the weather, I just hear there's
it's not looking so good.
A little cloudy, maybe a little rain, but that's okay.
As
long as nobody gets hurt.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody stay healthy. You gonna tailgate?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I may have a banner up or two.
Well, you're gonna be out, kissing hands and shaking babies, right?
Yes. Let's just say that. Yes, I am. Hopefully we'll get to meet some people. And I'm really looking forward to it. I look forward to this game every year. Not the game.
No, the game is immaterial.
It's right. It's good. And if they just did a practice out there, I think we'd all enjoy it, which it almost is.
You're going to get your wish in years to come. I'm quite confident.
I hear that. So at the same time,
let me throw an idea by you real quick.
Yeah.
So I actually came up with this back in, 2012-13 range, where you'd be real careful with the number of guys on the roster because we're dealing with the sanctions. So the blue-white had to be really managed because every guy was important. You lost a guy, you lost somebody out of the two deep, basically. And so they were talking about what are we going to do with the blue-white game? We don't want to play a traditional four-quarter scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
So coming back to, again, this being the conversation with the season going a lot later and, maybe – who knows? There's so much ambiguity, but collective bargaining somewhere on the not too distant horizon. Is spring ball even going to look the same that it typically has in college football? You still want to have this weekend. James Franklin talked about it. You want to give the fans and the alumni and the town an opportunity to have what I just termed spring homecoming. And so I said, what if we just say, hey, forget about the scrimmage or the practice, whatever. Nobody cares. Nobody knows what's going on. It's boring to watch Penn State play Penn State anyway. What if we get everybody up here? We have blue-white weekend. We still do, with the autographs with the players in some way to highlight the existing team. But what we do in the stadium is we get a bunch of lettermen back and we play a 7-on-7 flag football game. What do you think?
Well, I would love to see Goon out there. I think that would be.
I would love to see Goon on a tackle-eligible 7-on-7 play, right?
I would even put a dollar figure on tickets. So yes, love Goon, love him to death, and let's see how he gets down into that 3-point stance again.
I remember IM football rules. Offensive linemen can release and be eligible receivers. I think Goon could be a devastating downfield threat.
That's
in
it.
That scenario.
That's it. I think maybe we can bring back some of the alumni band members too, and maybe,
that would be awesome.
Maybe alumni cheerleaders and see what they all can do.
This is what I'm talking about. Whatever you do inside the stadium is the least important part of the weekend.
That's right.
So that's important because I've been reminding people, Greg, throughout the show, what I say at this time of the year, every year, which is don't go into this thinking you are going to learn anything that is relevant to what we're going to see in the fall. You might, if you're super lucky, get a few little crumbs of knowledge, and you'll be lucky to get those.
Yeah. I the one thing, and knowing what my sons went through, playing, it's the off season that tells the coach that you've got somebody who's committed. You got somebody who's putting forth the effort in the gym, to lift, condition workouts, strength. You can go 10 different ways with this. It's also those who, can show that they're leaders on the team. And Coach Franklin, he's got 100 plus players out there. It's tough to see it. And those that are going to separate themselves, they're probably going to do it in the spring. And then when they come back, in late August or excuse me, probably mid-August, I don't know what the time frame is anymore. But when they come back, hopefully they're showing everything they did in the spring that they carried forward through the summer, and that now they're ready for the start of the season. So there's a lot that goes into the spring that maybe we don't see, but we think we're going to see it in the spring game.
Yeah, you won't.
Yeah, no. And quite frankly, I think the necessary part of the spring is to really teach those that want to be our next leaders on that football team. And, and I love that part of it. So
for sure,
it's really a 12-month sport, even though they get some time to kind of, settle and cool and recuperate and nurse injuries over, the off seasons. But it's still a 12-month sport. That's for sure.
Now more than ever. And what for me has been really interesting over the last year is the kind of fun little dynamic we've gotten with Goon, doing some stuff with Landon Tengwall, who is a more recent former offensive lineman, and hearing those guys compare their respective experiences with Penn State football. And one of the points that Goon made is that his experience of spring ball, and my co-host on Obligatory, Brandon Noble, said the same thing, same deal back in the mid-'90s, was really the opportunity for younger guys. If you were an upperclassman who had played a lot of football, you dialed it way back in the spring. And then Landon has said that it's really not been that way as much the last few years. And now it seems like it's maybe shifting back to that, again, by necessity, just you're playing so many more games.
Yeah.
How much more do you need to learn about Nick Singleton and Zane Durant and Denai Dennis Sutton? What I have harped on the last few years, Greg, is that I think a big differentiating factor for Penn State from about 2022 on is that we now, I think for the first time since James has been here, have the kind of 2 and 3 deep quality players on the depth chart that we had in the heyday of Penn State football. And that's what differentiates champions.
You're right.
Because over the course of the season, it's how do you survive attrition? Eventually, some contributing player is going to have to be off the field for some period of time. What's the drop off between him and his backup? And so I think a big part of spring ball right now is a chance for all of those guys to play quality reps. I talked about it a lot in the first hour, that it's not so much the players at the top of the depth chart.
That's right.
Returning our starting quarterback, returning our 2 starting tailbacks, 4 out of 5 offensive linemen, and Cooper Cousins, who we think is going to win the right guard spot, played a lot as a freshman in 2024. Great set of tight ends, and wide receiver is going to be what it is. Well, we'll just cross our fingers and pray. The depth behind those guys, very, very important to get these kids a lot of opportunities now for them to scrimmage, show the coaches what they can do, learn in these hands-on opportunities. I wanted to talk a little bit in the second half of the show here, talking with Greg Pilowitz, who is a candidate for Penn State trustee, ballot position number 16. And again, the website address, just to make sure you get it right, because I might not, is Penn State Votes.
Penn State Votes, all one word, at .com.
Yeah. So if you're a Penn State alum and you did not get your ballot in your email, number one, check your spam filter. And number 2, if you didn't get it, you can request one at PennStateVotes.com. I want to talk a little bit about the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Because I just gave you the laundry list of the good news on offense. And the good news on defense, other than that we poached probably the hottest candidate for that spot from our arch rival in conference, bringing Jim Knowles over from Ohio State, is that at every level of the defense, every position group, you've got an absolute stud.
That's right.
You've got Zachy Wheatley at safety. AJ Harris at corner, Tony Rojas and Dom DeLuca at linebacker. And then you are very fortunate to have Denai Dennis Sutton and Zane Durant both come back on the defensive line. So I look at that and I say, that's where we start. At every position group, I've got a guy who I think has all-America potential. Okay, awesome. Even if I've got nothing else good to tell you, you're in a pretty good position, right?
Oh my gosh, and again, whether they're coming from within our program or transferring from another program, there is an element of they understand it, and they understand positionally, technique. Our coaches are going to coach them up, maybe if they see a tweak here or there. But the people you just mentioned, they've got it. They know how to play the game. They're now going to be called upon to be the person. Hopefully, there's some young people pushing them.
Yeah,
because you always want that. But I really, like you just said, I think there's a core group. Now we've got to really kind of look at where's that next group going to be, kind of held up there in the same conversation every single minute of the season, as just being our next star defensive end, our next star, inner defensive player, linebacker, you name it. And, it's impressive what James is doing. And, he's becoming a destination spot for top student athletes.
No question.
Even though, we've all, we're Penn Staters and we love this university. We always believed we were that site. But James is turning us into really kind of a place that you're going to come, not just, to compete for the national championship, but even for, the guidance and learning that's going to get you to that first round draft pick, second round draft pick. His resume is growing, and it's growing with great, we're looking forward to tonight. That's for sure.
Well, yeah. And consistent with the foundation of this program that Joe laid down, if you don't get your name called, if your future is not playing professional football, which it will not be for the majority of players on any big time college football team, that you're set up for success in whatever you do in life afterwards. And again, to further highlight what I think is great about the position the program's in right now, you talk about being a fourth generation Penn State. Mm-hmm. You talk about wanting to give back. We all feel that. You're running for trustee because you want to give back to your alma mater. There is something special about this place. We can all agree on that. And James has found some way to tap into that and identify in the kids he brings to Penn State those who will recognize and appreciate it, and then make sure that they do. Because if you look at the amount of talent flowing in and out of these big time top 10, top 25 programs all across the country, and then you look at the impact of the transfer portal on Penn State, these are night and day comparisons. I think one of the things he has done maybe better than anything, and I don't hear get talked about a whole lot, is just the talent retention is remarkable given the completely Wild West free market we're in right now.
Well, you've really, the job has changed, and I don't ever want to compare the job of what Joe Paterno did and Bill O'Brien, James Franklin.
Sure.
I want to compare because today's job is far different than what Joe did.
It's lunacy. I think you have to be a complete sociopath to want to be coaching this.
It is pretty lucrative. I will say that part of it looks attractive, but you're right.
It is, but I feel like you earn every dollar of it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think actually, not that it's easy to earn a dollar, not that it's certainly not easy to earn $10 million.
Yeah.
I think there are easier ways to make $10 million than being head coach of a college football program. It's a crazy job.
I totally agree. But, what they're doing, and you said the retention. And retention is it's almost nowadays that you've got to re-recruit. And that star player, that great player, that average player, it doesn't really matter who it is. Hopefully there's a reason they're here. And that reason is to play a position or positions. But if you're trying to coach them and coach them too hard, and they're going to think you're coming down on them too much, I've seen that. I've seen that in the programs that my sons were in.
Sure.
And, the coach has to kind of pull the reins back a little bit, talk to the young man about, or the young woman about, whether it's, what they bring to the table as a leader, what they bring to the table in terms of culture, what they bring to the table in terms of ability. You've got all these things that, hopefully our coaches, and James Franklin in particular here, he's got to, he every year he has to look at that kid and say, I've got somebody here. And I want to keep them here. How am I going to keep them here? But yet he wants to play every down. That's a challenge. And I give him credit because
at 100%, there are multiple parties in his ear.
That's right.
Offering him and promising him opportunities and dollars to go with it.
Yep.
365, 24/7. That's the sport right now.
You think you've got it, and you got the young man, and he wants to be here. He had just such a great experience in the last year or 2 years, and lo and behold, somebody's offering him money, and now you've got to compete financially, which again didn't exist years ago, but today I'm sure Coach Franklin, I know Coach Godowski, I know them all they have to live it and breathe it and understand it as to what the environment is. And the market is for those players, and that's something they didn't have to do a few years back. So
yeah, it's insane. I do not envy James Franklin, nor do I envy Pat Kraft, even though both of them I think are doing a commendable job.
Yeah.
So, kind of speaking more about the transfer portal, just one point I always like to make is that I feel like while we have seen players leave the team via the portal, in almost every case, they're guys who, just to be fair, are probably giving themselves a better opportunity to play at a program where just the level of competition is a little bit less. And it's no knock on those guys. I mean, it's really, really hard to earn a starting job at any Division I college football team. But when you're talking about a place like Penn State, where you are competing with the best of the best of the best to be a national champion, no shame in saying, you know what, as opposed to being a small part of this, I'd rather go be a big part of something else. But those are the guys who are leaving. I think the one impact guy who I was really heartbroken to see get in the transfer portal and leave before he could show what he could do is named King Mack, and he was gone for 1 year, and now he's back in blue and white. So to me, that's just maybe the most resounding testament for the program culture that has been built.
Correct. And that goes a long way. And it takes a while to build that culture. And once you build it, unfortunately, you can see it all come twist in a bad direction, and you got to do it again. And you got to find those leaders from within that are helping not just the coaches build the culture, but they're helping either the younger players coming in, the transfers coming in, and it means the world to that next group of players, the year after or the year after that, because they're coming into something saying, this is what we value, this is what we do. And, again, it really feels like we are in a great place in terms of Penn State and the football program for not just the culture, but, the level of talent. We were talking at the break about, the backups, the people that want to be in the starting roles, and how hard they've got to, step up to show their grit, their capability. And again, it's the Wild West out there, because these kids will all want to play. We know it. We know they started on their high school team or their AAU team or their AAA team. They did everything back then, and now they're coming into a program that's loaded, and it's a nice thing to see in terms of, them being in blue and white. That's for sure.
Your whole career, you've been the best, and now you're just one of the rest. And you got to start over from square one. All right, before we get to the break, I just do want to make one final note for everybody, since we're having all this wonderful talk about the transfer portal and roster numbers and all these things that I know you love so much. You love college football so much. You love to hear about court cases and roster numbers and salary caps and collective bargaining. Isn't that fun? Sports is supposed to be fun. It's fun. I watch people's eyes glaze over when this stuff comes up, and I don't blame them. But if you have been hearing and being told correctly, we all thought that Penn State and every other team in college football was working to get down to a 105 player roster limit by this summer, and that was going to affect the math of who stays and who goes. Forget about all of that because we just had a ruling from a judge earlier this morning working on that house settlement case that says, nope, not going to do it. Like, I'm not going to accept any of this. We're going to throw the whole thing out. We're going to go to trial, which could take years unless you can figure out a way to slowly phase in and implement those roster changes over years and grandfather in everybody who's been on the roster. So once again, as happens about every 3 months in the sport of college football, nobody involved with it, in fact, especially those who are supposedly in charge, has any idea what's going on. So if you were worried about Penn State getting down to 105 players by June 1st or July 1st or whatever, forget about it. That's out the window. Okay, no more talk about that nonsense. We're going to go to a break. And when we come back on the other side, we're going to talk a little bit about the NFL draft. 2 Penn Staters projected to go very high, and the Philadelphia Eagles picking dead last in the first round because they are Super Bowl champions. It's the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show from Quaker Steak Lube and State College. We'll be right back.
There's only one dealer in Happy Valley that always goes to the mat to get you the best deals. It's Lion Country Kia.
Hi, this is Penn State wrestler Mitchell Messenbrink. Lion Country Kia has been serving Happy Valley for 15 years now. They helped me purchase my new Kia, and they would love to help you too.
Lion Country Kia is waiting for you with 85 vehicles in stock and ready to go. Choose from 13 2025 Kia Sportages and 16 2025 Kia Serenos with financing as low as 3.49% for 72 months or total savings of over $4,000. And of course, every new Kia comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Let us go to the mat to get you the best deals. Lion Country Kia, 1334 Dropwood Street off Shiloh Road behind Sam's Club, State College. Warranty is a limited powertrain warranty. For details, see dealer or go to kia.com.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
I'm the Modelo Recruiter, and I'm looking for fans with good hands and great speed. The ones who stay focused and never miss a play. They go the distance on game day, even when their team is away. I'm always watching, always looking to reward more full-time fans. Because football isn't really football without you.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Lusk & Associates Sotheby's International Realty proudly presents the introduction of our new State College office at 314 South Borough Street in State College. At Sotheby's International Realty, we advertise locally, nationally, and internationally, bringing the best of advertising and promotion to each and every one of our properties, big or small. Call now.
Hi, welcome to Timberland Federal Credit Union, a financial cooperative for its members, tracing all the way back to 1973.
Experience Timberland Federal Credit Union, where you're greeted with a smile and financial solutions are tailored to your unique life journey. Here, we're not just financial professionals, we're your neighbors, people invested in your financial needs, literacy, and empowerment. Your dreams matter to us, whether they're about buying a home, growing a nest egg, or embarking on new adventures. TFCU draws from the past and invests in the future, offering modern tools like online banking to give you the freedom to manage your money practically anytime. Additionally, we're passionate about giving back both time and resources because enhancing our community is at the core of why we're here. Visit TFCU in person or online to learn more about our services and apply for a membership today.
WFXS, once again.
Your sports radio.
Broadcasting live, loud and proud from Central PA's Sports Authority, WFXS America.
98.7 The Fox State College, the Goon and Ironhead.
Welcome back, everybody, for the final segment of today's Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. Reminder, we're live here at Quaker Steak and Lube in State College. Encourage you to come on out, have dinner, watch the first round of the NFL draft, maybe enjoy a couple of adult bevs, and get access to the widest and best selection of wing sauces in the Nittany Valley. And also, as I told you at the top of the show, absolutely the most consistent, high-quality service it really of any place in town, and I'm not saying that because they pay us. Nothing but honesty with the folks, okay? And what I am telling you is that it has become a greater and greater challenge, especially after COVID, to find a place where time after time you can come and know what you're going to get. This is such a place, and the food is excellent, the venue is cool, and there's not a bad seat in the house in terms of your ability to watch a sport or to watch the NFL draft on one of their many flat screens. So come on out and join us here at Quaker Steak and Lube in State College. This is Bucanani, the obligatory filling in for Goon and Ironhead, who are out today. I got Greg Pelowitz, who is running for the Penn State Board of Trustees, who's running to be an alumni trustee elected by the trustees. So if you're out there and you're eligible, you haven't gotten your ballot, PennStateVotes.com is the website, though you should check your spam filter as well. I know plenty of people who have had that issue over the years. I think I've finally trained Gmail not to kick it into my spam filter personally. But he's ballot position number 16. He's been talking about his journey as a fourth-generation Penn Stater and the desire to serve and to seek this position. We've had fun talking about the great job James Franklin has done building the Penn State football program, leading up to what we all hope is a national championship run that we're all going to get together and celebrate here in Happy Valley on Saturday for Blue White Weekend. But another great promotional opportunity for Penn State football is going to happen tonight, Greg, when the NFL draft holds its first round. It's going to draw a big ratings number, and two Nittany Lions are going to hear their names called very early, especially Abdul Carter, almost certainly going to be a top 5 pick.
Absolutely. He is going to be one of our greats out in the NFL. We'd love to see him on the Eagles.
Oh, yeah, me too. I would have loved to just get all the character problem rumors just churning. Like, if I were one of the first 31 teams picking in this draft, I wouldn't even touch him with a 10-foot ball.
Didn't Marino fall pretty far in a draft because of some rumors? But,
he did.
And, of course, he proved everybody a different way. But
a lot of Steelers fans ruined the day.
Yes.
That, they passed up on the hometown kid, for sure.
Yeah, but, Abdul, good luck to him. He's a stud, and he deserves what he's gonna get here. And we hope top 3, top 2 pick, maybe. A
top 3 seems very likely.
I agree.
Unfortunately, it looks like it could be the New York G-men who put him in blue and red. Although the last time they took a Nittany Lion high, it ended well.
Very, very
ultimately.
Well.
But some rumors, as I reported in the first hour, that Chicago has engineered a trade up in the draft from their number 10 spot. Hasn't been announced yet, but speculation that it is either to number 5, which would probably be for the running back out of Boise State, who Penn State faced in the Fiesta Bowl, Ashton Genty, or possibly Abdul Carter at number 3. So could be a bear, could be a giant, could surprise people and drop a little bit, but he's going to hear his name called. And talking about program culture and talent retention, what a great decision Tyler Warren made to forego the NFL draft last year and instead spend one more year in the blue and white. And now he's going to be a first rounder, almost certainly selected in the top 15 or top 20 picks.
Yeah.
Could be a top 10 guy.
Yeah, he could. He bet on himself. And
Jets at number 7 seems to be a popular projection.
There you go. You got a giant and a jet. I'm biting my bottom lip right now.
Yeah, you and me both. You and me both. But that's a great showcase for the top level of talent Penn State football has brought in, and there are going to be plenty of other guys who are selected in rounds 2 through 7 as well.
Yeah, and they deserve. Again, we're going to see some very deserving players. From Penn State. We're going to they're going to highlight, of course, Warren and Carter tonight, and you just never know. Will somebody else sneak into, perhaps lower second round?
Oh, I think for sure there are going to be some Nittany Lions go on Friday night. I think the guy I am most interested to see where he's selected, and somebody who has been linked to the Eagles and was one of their famous 30 in-person team visits. Howie has an established track record of drafting a lot of players who come in for one of these 30 allotted visits. Is KJ Winston, who was one of my favorite defenders when he was healthy. And, it was just sadly had to miss last year. You think about how good that defense was. How much better would they have been if KJ Winston could have been on the field? But before he was hurt, coming into last year, he was being talked about as a potential first-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
He ran really well at Penn State Pro Day. Apparently has been coming across strong in his team interviews. You could get a marginal end of the first, top of the second round talent later in the second round tomorrow night because of injury concerns. I wouldn't hate seeing KJ wear the midnight green.
Listen, I like the way you're thinking, but somebody like KJ and those interviews, it's amazing, what comes out of those interviews. And nowadays, even the pro teams are looking at the right culture. And putting the team together and how that individual is going to impact not the on-field, but even the off-field. And
I hate to keep banging the Eagles drum as you have two Philly fans sitting here, but for real, very obviously locker room culture is an asset to that team.
Oh God. Yeah. And it's funny because I mentioned off the air that I have lived the last 25 years in the Pittsburgh area. So as hard as it is, to have been an Eagles fan from afar, I had to live the life of a dual Eagles and Steelers fans because I was going to a lot of Steelers games.
Sure.
And of course, they're struggling with, kind of a number of down years, but, where they sit in the draft today, are they taking Rodgers? Do we know yet?
It remains an open question. I think it's foolish. I don't think they should be pursuing him at all, let alone as hotly as they are. But it's going to be very interesting to see if they pull the trigger on a quarterback in the draft. Probably don't even have enough time to get into my thoughts on that, other than to say, if I had to bet on it, I would say it's actually probably more likely that they don't.
You know what? I think the same way. But again, I'm going back to a lot of my friends and family that were from Pittsburgh, and they've agonized quite a bit. And you and I are smiling today because we're Eagles fans, and with the Super Bowl shirts on and enjoying every minute of the off season, knowing that we're the champs.
Yeah, it's a good feeling.
But I'd love to see, if they're not going to go, if the Penn Staters are not going to go to the Eagles, I'd still love to see them in Pittsburgh because I think they've been, they're really highly thought of in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Pat Fryermuth and Joey Porter Jr. both having nice careers in the black and gold. All right, well, we're going to get out of here. It's been the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show here live from State College's Quaker Steak and Lube. Goon and Ironhead will both be back on Tuesday, breaking down all the results from the NFL draft over the weekend and maybe commenting a little bit on what we see over blue-white. Again, my pleasure to have Greg Pilowitz, candidate for Penn State Board of Trustee, alumni trustee. He's ballot position number 16. And again, just one final reminder, if you didn't get your ballot, PennStateVotes.com is the place where you go to request it. Enjoy blue-white weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
There's only one dealer in Happy Valley that always goes to the mat to get you the best deals. It's Lion Country Kia.
Hi, this is Penn State wrestler Mitchell Messenbrink. Lion Country Kia has been serving Happy Valley for 15 years now. They helped me purchase my new Kia, and they would love to help you too.
Lion Country Kia is waiting for you with 85 vehicles in stock and ready to go. Choose from 13 2025 Kia Sportages and 16 2025 Kia Sorentos with financing as low as 3.49% for 72 months or total savings of over $4,000. And of course, every new Kia comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Let us go to the mat to get you the best deals. Lion Country Kia, 1334 Dropwood Street off Shiloh Road behind Sam's Club, State College.
Warranty is a limited powertrain warranty. For details, see dealer or go to kia.com.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak. Steak Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food. Get to Quaker Steak Lube.
I'm the Modelo Recruiter, and I'm looking for fans with good hands and great speed. The ones who stay focused and never miss a play. They go the distance on game day, even when their team is away. I'm always watching, always looking to reward more full-time fans. Because football isn't really football without you.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Lusk & Associates, Sotheby's International Realty proudly presents the introduction of our new State College office at 314 South Borough Street in State College. At Sotheby's International Realty, we advertise locally, nationally, and internationally, bringing the best of advertising and promotion to each and every one of our properties, big or small. Call now.
Hi, welcome to Timberland Federal Credit Union, a financial cooperative for its members, tracing all the way back to 1973.
Experience Timberland Federal Credit Union, where you're greeted with a smile and financial solutions are tailored to your unique life journey. Here, we're not just financial professionals, we're your neighbors, people invested in your financial needs, literacy, and empowerment. Your dreams matter to us, whether they're about buying a home, growing a nest egg, or embarking on new adventures. TFCU draws from the past and invests in the future, offering modern tools like online banking to give you the freedom to manage your money practically anytime. Additionally, we're passionate about giving back both time and resources because enhancing our community is at the core of why we're here. Visit TFCU in person or online to learn more about our services and apply for a membership today.
WFXS, once again.
Your sports radio. Broadcasting live, loud and proud from